Okay. I don't know. Technical difficulties. I had to end that stream and put on a new stream. So what? Participants. Community moderation. User management. Seems smooth now, right? I don't know. Is some fucking YouTube glitch or something like that. I don't know. But hopefully all the details are the same for the stream. It's just a different stream now, the stream link. And there is a chat. I don't know why some people are unable to access the chat. Try unsubscribing and resubscribing maybe. Anyway, there seem to be a few people in the live, so I guess we can begin. Okay, welcome back to another stream. This time we're gonna be talking about pets. Well, not exactly. I'm using the term pets to refer to like any kind of animal that we have like regular contact or just for the purposes of the stream. This is not my general understanding of what a pet is. I'm sure there'll be some people like some smart asses like, oh, don't call them pets, call them companion animals. Yeah, I'm not gonna do anything like that. Pets. There's nothing wrong with the word pet. It just means like something that you're fond of. Okay, there's nothing wrong with the term pet. Um, Companion animal is too much of a mouthful every time, like saying it every time. So it's a huge pain in the ass. So just assume that every time I'm using the term pets, I'm referring to companion animals. And however, for the purposes of this stream, I'm not only talking about companion animals, as in the animals that people adopt and keep in their houses or whatever. I am referring generally to animals that humans interact with, like dogs, cats, cows, maybe even chickens on the road. Um, just 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 any kind of animal that humans have like a regular interaction with. It can even be monkeys. Like over here, we have a bunch of like langur, like Hanuman langurs. So you can also consider them in the purview of the term pets. Just for the purposes of this live stream, and the reason why I'm including that is because a lot of people identify with the term vegan. However, they have no qualms with um, purchasing and providing these animals with um, other like product like animal products is what I'm talking about, and that's like the an insane amount of confusion. that people have. So that's what we're gonna talk about in this stream. Okay, and I'm just reading the chat. How long will the stream be? Uh, I don't know. I don't know how much rage exists within me at this moment, so I can't really tell you. I'm trying to keep it somewhere around an hour. It could be less, it could be more. Just like maybe like 15 minutes, um, plus or minus. Um, I'm talking about actual monkeys. Yes. And Hanuman langur is a type of, primate. You can search what a Hanuman langur is. Anyway, so no, I'm not too noob to respond to the chat. It's just that I have an agenda over here. I have some work to do, so I have to cover as many things I can within the time, and then I'll get to the chat. I'll keep glancing over the chat every now and then, just like I am right now. But I have some important stuff to talk about. Firstly, the first thing I want to talk about is I want to sort of start the rant with some good news. And the good news is there is a company called Appoota in Mumbai, India, which has recently started selling lab-grown meat. The only downside is that it's for pets. So they are I'll just share the link in the chat so that people can check them out, and I encourage people to check out Appoota. So check out Appoota. This is a shout out to Appoota, to whoever my subscribers are. I'm not getting paid by them. There's no sponsorship. However, if Appoota wants to reach out to me and initiate a sponsorship, I'm more than willing to discuss. I don't know why they would do that. Well, maybe there are reasons. Maybe because like I am probably one of the only people in the community who is extremely bullish about lab meat whenever it happens, right? So I'm a huge proponent of cultured meat, lab meat as we call it, and I will support any company that makes headway into this technology. And Appoota is one such company that has just been started in Mumbai, and they are selling dog food specifically for now. They might also introduce cat food later on, but right now it is dog food. So what is Appoota? Appoota, I don't know who runs the company, who are on the team, and all that stuff. All I know is that they are introducing lab-grown. They're introducing like dog food, like wet dog food, and okay, I think it's pronounced Ethia, not Ethia. Whatever, I don't know. Because like their logo has an E in Hindi script, so maybe it's Ethia, which is okay, whatever. Ethia. Maybe like it's like inspired by the term dialethia. So just chop off the die and just Ethia. I don't know. Whatever. So Ethia is a company that I am talking about, and they are introducing like wet dog food, and this dog food contains cultivated chicken, flesh. And I'm not gonna go into too much detail about what they are providing. This is all stuff that you can find on their website. All I'm gonna talk about is the fact that how was this technology developed, and there's some information about how it is developed. Now, I need to add one thing, that this company, even though it currently does not use any FBS, like fetal bovine serum or calf serum, for their products right now, they do not use any such animal based medium. They have, in the research and development phase, used these substances for the purpose of developing their animal free growth medium. And let's talk about that. So I'm just gonna change my screen to my Discord, where I have stored some screenshots, and this is the Vegan India Discord server. I am usually found in that server, and also some other servers like Vegan Dialectica and Modal Jungle, and even the Uproot Nutrition server. That's usually where you can find me. You can find the links to the servers in the description. So I'm just gonna switch to my Discord right now so that I can show you something. Give me a second. Discord. There we go. All right. So this is a screenshot. Let me just check the stream to see if everything is fine. Can everyone see my Discord? I think so, because I can see it over here. Just confirm in the chat. I'll wait for the confirmation. I mean, I'm just gonna assume you can see my I'm just gonna assume you can see my Discord stream, because I can see it over here. Whatever. So over here, someone, I don't know who, I cannot credit. I would credit the person if they step up, but I don't know who. Someone contacted. I found this screenshot from some WhatsApp group, meant for like vegan pet food or something like that, and someone contacted this company, and they asked them if real animal flesh was used during the experimentation or testing stage, and for the FSSAI approval. FSSAI is a licensing body in India. I'm not gonna talk about them much. So they say, thanks for connecting. We are glad our thoughts aligned. Chicken cell extraction is a one-time process and was extracted from an egg. After that, we never used, I assume they wanted to say we never used or killed any animal in the whole cycle. So technically, we never used any animal flesh during the R&D stage. Right now, pet food does not fall under the purview of FSSAI. Now let's unpack that a little bit. The idea is that they obtained cells, like chicken cells, from eggs. I'm assuming you could probably get like cells from, I don't know if you, would you require like fertilized eggs? I'm not so sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you probably would. Okay. So perhaps it was a fertilized egg or whatever. They have obtained the cells from an egg. However, on the website, they say that the cells were purchased from a cell bank, if I remember correctly. Yes, on the website, they say our chicken cells are sourced from a cell bank. This is a one-time sourcing process. Once we obtain the cells, we preserve and maintain the cell bank internally, which allows us to culture and reproduce cells repeatedly without ever going back to an animal. Now let's unpack that, and let's unpack like the biology of this. Okay. Maybe we should go through this entire thing, and then I'll talk about the biology a little bit, not too much. Maybe another stream for that, but no, I'll just like go over the basics, because this is not even the focus of the stream. This is just a sort of, like an appetizer or something like that. Anyway, so this person who contacted them asked another doubt. Doesn't lab-grown meat require FBS, fetal bovine serum, as a growth medium? Can you please let us know the medium used to grow the lab meat? Okay. And now fetal bovine serum is something that is obtained from, so it's a horrible process. So when cows are slaughtered, sometimes they are pregnant, and they have a fetus within them while they're slaughtered. And this fetus is then, like a syringe is used to obtain a bunch of like blood from the fetus, and this blood is then centrifuged and processed to obtain the serum, and that contains a lot of like growth factors and proteins and a lot of other important stuff, which is used in the preparation of growth medium for cell culturing, like mammalian cell culturing. And this chemical is ubiquitous in a lot of cell biology labs. So if there is like a research or industry lab that performs cell culture, there's a very high chance that this particular substance is present in the growth medium. And it's one of those things that just everyone uses and barely anyone tries to replace, because a lot of stuff is standardized with FBS. Now, if you want to eliminate FBS, you have to come up with some alternative to FBS, and they so what the company here responds is that in the early research and development days, when we were optimizing the growth medium, FBS is an essential component. But once you have covered that journey and identified all the necessary components, you can eliminate the use of FBS. They mean that it can be replaced with other things once you have identified the necessary components. So you can eliminate FBS once you have identified and replaced those components. And through this process, they have now developed a proprietary growth medium. And now they no longer use cells. Now, this person, I think this person, whoever they are, is a little bit naive, because they say, I don't understand then why was I told no animal products was used after the cell extraction from eggs. And the company responds that we meant from the cell extraction point of view, we don't need any animals further in the whole cycle for the same process. And they are referring to the process after the medium has already been developed, which they have. They have developed a proprietary growth medium, and that's how they have scaled up their stuff, and that's why they are no longer using FBS, right? So that's what the company is saying. So we don't need any animals further in the process now that we have a proprietary medium. So now they say, in the early stages of media development, we need to sequentially adapt cells from FBS to FBS free. But from the current and long-term perspectives, apart from the chicken cells, there is no other animal component in the product. Okay, I think this is a great time to sort of give you a small biology primer. I'm not gonna go into like a lot of detail, partly because I haven't looked them up myself, like to like a really high degree. Um, but I just need to like explain a few things just from like a high level perspective, so that people can understand what's going on. Okay. So I'm gonna switch back to my Obsidian so that people can see what I'm drawing and follow along. Okay, where is my Obsidian? Okay, there we go. All right. Fine. So when we grow cells, right? I'm gonna draw like a flask. So we use something called a tea flask. I'm not. It's a bit like this. I'm not drawing it in 3D, so just like, oh, let me just draw it in 3D anyway. And so there's gonna be like a mouth over here. So this is kind of the flask that people use in a research lab in order to grow. Terrible drawing, but excuse me because I'm just in a hurry so that I can get to the meat of the topic. uh, okay, so this flask is gonna contain like a liquid, like a red colored liquid, generally speaking. And it's red because there are some pH indicators, pH and CO2 kind of like indicators. In the medium. So what happens is there is a growth medium. This is like a liquid, a red liquid. There are many like traditional kind of media for mammalian cell culture. One is called the most common one is like DMEM, if I remember my cell biology correctly. This is Delbecko's modified eagle medium. I don't know if you are interested in this particular thing, but I'm just gonna write it down anyway. So this is Delbecko's modified eagle medium. This contains like all the nutrition required for mammalian cell culture. Actually, you could say this is for like just animal tissue culture in general. Because and the reason I mentioned that is because chickens are not mammals. They're they're birds. So since we're talking about like cultured chicken, I'm talking about animal tissue culture as opposed to like as opposed to like mammalian cell culture, because this is like a bird, not an animal. Sorry, not a mammal. Okay. Anyway, so the medium contains pH indicators, and it has all the other stuff like 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 there are multiple things that cells require, like an energy source, a nitrogen source, stuff like that. And I don't remember the exact composition of DMEM, and that's probably not the medium that the company is using anyway. So, which is why I'm not going to go into the details of that. But the idea is it contains all the necessary components for cells to grow. Now, it contains it contains FBS or bovine serum albumin. FBS is what I have heard is most commonly used. I might be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that. But FBS is fetal bovine serum, as I've already told you. Now, this component is necessary because it contains like some growth factors and stuff like that, which is important for the cells to grow. Okay, a little more detail. Now, this plastic is kind of a little special, because once you have the liquid medium in there and you in a sterile environment, if you transfer some cells into this flask, they're gonna start growing, and these cells are gonna stick to the bottom of let me maybe draw the cells in a different color. Maybe I'll draw them in green. So the cells are gonna stick to this tube, to this flask. Now, what you can do is, like, after some time, when the medium does not contain enough nutrients to support the cells, the color of the medium will change, and then that's how you know that it has to be replaced. But generally, people replace it a little ahead of time. What they do is they dump out this liquid, and you're left with this flask with the cells, and these are called adherent cells. Adherent cells. Okay, this stream is certainly gonna go longer than I expected, but whatever. I hope everyone is on board. Okay, so what you could do is you can just dump out this stuff and whatever. Now, once you have these cells, you can provide some enzymatic treatment, like trypsinization. Trypsin is an enzyme which you can use to break the contacts between the adherent cells and the flask, so that the cells come off loose. And what happens is you can now transfer these cells into another. You can transfer like maybe like a small part of this into another flask. Okay, and you can further divide up the rest of it into like multiple flasks, and each flask will grow more cells, right? So this is what we call subculturing, and it's also called passaging. Now, what you could do is what the company has done is they have obtained the cells from an egg or whatever is what they're saying, and they have done this whole thing, and they have established a cell line. Okay, one more thing. When you have an initial batch, like a mother culture or a mother stock or something like that, you have the first batch, and you can like make a ton of this batch, not literally like a ton, but like I'm just like a lot of cells from the first batch, and you can store them in liquid nitrogen. And liquid nitrogen is a cryopreservant. It stores stuff at extremely low temperatures, like temperatures that are, negative 197 degrees Celsius. I'm sorry to all the North American counterparts of mine, but I'm going to use Celsius. You can convert it to Fahrenheit if you want, but liquid nitrogen is roughly around 197 degrees Celsius, and what it can do is essentially, like, at such low temperatures, all cell activity is technically arrested. Like it does not, there's not much happening at that low temperature. And then you can essentially preserve these indefinitely. Now what you can do is you can take some from the first batch and you can initiate a second batch. And then you can just keep on doing this indefinitely. And sometimes we also have like immortalized cell lines. I don't know how relevant that is to this, so I'm not gonna go into much detail about this over here. But you could have immortalized cell lines, and I mean the idea is that you can technically like add some stuff which will prevent the degradation of telomeres, prevents the degradation of like the DNA in the cells, to put it simply. And you can freeze it at liquid at negative 197 degrees Celsius, and you can essentially have like an endless supply of cells from one source. So this company is probably doing something to this effect, and they now have an indefinite supply of cells. They are probably never going to need another harvesting of cells. They are, yeah. So I don't know exactly how they procured the chicken egg and stuff like that. I'm gonna read the chat a little bit. Why they didn't tell what part of egg is actually extracted? No. Cells to divide, protein, corporate slaves who have to. Oh, anyway. Okay. All right. So let me go back to my Obsidian so that I can continue the discussion. Well, monologue, because y'all aren't discussing. I'm the only one talking. Anyway, so this is how the company is essentially doing this from like a high level perspective, and they have developed a growth medium. Okay, I need to talk about why what they said about the use of FBS and the development of. Now, what you need to do is when you're transferring cells from one medium to another medium, if the media are different, if the compositions of the media are different, then you need to let the cells adapt to the new medium. So what they do is they can subculture these cells in the same medium for a few generations, for a few passages, and what happens is the cells are now accustomed to growing in this new medium, which does not contain the fetal bovine serum, but it contains the alternative that they have used, which is obviously proprietary. So they are not going to be publishing the recipe for the proprietary growth medium. I don't know, they might, but I don't think a company would generally publish this. Maybe we need to like look into some kind of open sourcing situation where people will perform this research and then just open source the recipe. But whatever, they have standardized the recipe for the chicken cells, so good on them. They have done that, and they have developed a medium, and now the cells have been introduced into that medium, and they have adapted sufficiently to that medium such that now you can forget about the fetal bovine serum, and you can only use this particular medium, and for the rest of this company's career, they can use this medium. They might make some modifications because technology never really remains stagnant. They're probably gonna make some changes over time, but that's the idea. They can technically use this medium forever, um, and the cells have now accustomed to this medium. Now the idea is that the question now is this vegan? Um, if you ask me, I would say yes, because anyone like who is starting a company for lab meat has to go through the same process, because they are going to not have the recipe for this animal free medium available in the public domain. Now, if that is available in the public domain, great, but generally it's not available in the public domain. And this is a commercial enterprise, so the business is obviously not going to share their recipe. They're probably also not going to share their cell lines, so that you can just take the cell lines, cook up a medium, and then introduce the cells into the medium such that um, such that you can now produce this. So again, since this is all proprietary and this is not like an academic kind of stuff, um, you're gonna have the same issue if you start a company now. You will also have to use FBS initially, and that is okay, because I think this technology has the potential to save so many lives that some use of FBS is completely justifiable from like a threshold deontology kind of perspective. It's completely justified to use some amount of FBS if what you're getting is a medium which will eventually produce a product that is going to save countless lives. Okay, now enough about all of this. We can talk about this later if some people have questions, then we can get to it. But right now, the idea is that this company is selling vegan lab meat dog food. And someone asked why only for dogs? Cats can also eat chicken. The answer is the nutritional requirements for dogs are different from that of chickens. And that's why they have formulated this recipe for they formulated the recipe for dogs, and they are going to go over to cats probably soon. And the idea is, again, they don't have to reinvent the chicken meat. All they have to do is they have to modify the recipe, because there are like a bunch of nutrients that they're adding to the food to make it like nutritionally complete. That's why they have introduced this for dogs for now. But I think it's this is like very close to like lab meat. So I'm really happy, and I'm really bullish on this entire advancement, and I'm really proud that this is happening in Mumbai, which is the city I was born in and I grew up in, and I did my college and stuff like that, and all of that was in Mumbai. So I'm really proud that a company in Mumbai has pioneered this technology in India. As far as I'm aware, this is the first company that is launching lab meat, which is prepared without animal products right now. Currently, they don't use and the idea and the reason I'm stressing the currently part is because the idea is that as a vegan, we do not support economically the abuse of animals and the harm that is imposed upon animals. And by purchasing from this company, your purchase is only going to contribute to them making more lab meat, and it's not going to incentivize further animal abuse, at least eventually, at least in the long term. And a lot of animals are going to be spared because of this technology. So I endorse whatever this company is doing, and it's also like at a reasonable price. It's like 1,000 rupees for 1 kilogram of wet food, which I think is fine. Like if you have a pet and you can't afford that, you should just not have a pet. Okay. Now everyone wants me to rant, so I'm gonna start with the rant, and I'm gonna talk about some stupid pieces of shit who don't understand what veganism is. And they call themselves vegan. They have the fucking audacity to call themselves vegan. And I'm gonna start talking about these people. So I have some screenshots that I have taken from a WhatsApp group in India. This is an Indian WhatsApp group. But this is all mostly in English, so there's no problem. And I'm just gonna flash the screenshots on the screen so that you can read along, but I'm gonna read them out as well. So let me just switch over my thing to Discord again, and you should be able to see my Discord screen. All right. Some context. This is a WhatsApp group that is dedicated to helping people transition their pets from, not just pets, like just, it's a group that is targeted at people who want to feed animals. And animals like dogs and cats for the most part, because these are omnivorous animals. I don't think anybody is asking advice about how to feed like cows or goats or something like that, because nobody cares about those animals, even vegans, which is kind of interesting. But dogs and cats, mainly dogs and cats. So this group is aimed at helping people formulate like homemade recipes or choosing commercial vegan pet food so that they can feed them. And this person over here comes in, Sundar. The guy's name is Sundar. He comes in and he says, I tried giving vegan food to my street dogs. I feed. They didn't eat a bite. Not veg pedigree, not even veg pedigree. Pedigree is a brand in India. They don't even have yogurt rice. I give money to a feeder and they feed. Do you guys know trusted vegan alternatives? We feed more than 25 street dogs. And someone suggested something, and I picked on this point about them giving money to a feeder, and I said, well, what do they feed? Because like, I'm suspicious now. They give money to a feeder, and most feeders are kind of scum. So what do they feed? And the person replies to me. He says, eggs and rice, milk and rice. Okay, so here's a person who I don't know if they're vegan at this point. I mean, I know now, but I didn't know at that point. And I asked later, but before that, there's another person. There's another character to be introduced. There's another character called Kiran. Now, someone said other plant-based kibbles are cheaper than lab meat. That's fine. This is in response to me saying that people should be purchasing this lab meat, the Ithia lab meat that is coming out, just to support the company and encourage them to scale up. So Kiran comes in and says they don't eat. And Kiran agrees with Sundar, and she says, exactly my point. They try to feed the dogs, but the dogs don't eat. Okay, great. And now Sundar says the alternative option, they said open, but option of milk and eggs at this moment is cheap at 260 rupees for 5 kilos. That's roughly $2, a little more than $2, I suppose. A little less than, yeah, it's around $2, okay? For 5 kilograms. And this feeds 16 dogs. We take in 10 kilos a day. So this person spends about like $4 a day, and you can do the math. Just $4 a day, 30 days, $120 a day, like $12, $120 for like 12 months is more than $1,000. I'm not gonna do the exact math, but it's somewhere around like $1,400 something dollars. Yeah, $1,440 to be specific. They have a budget of 15,000 a month for these 26 cuties, plus additional for meds. So they're probably spending like 15K is whatever. They 15K rupees. They mean, because the rest of the money is going for medications for these street animals, and that is all like irrelevant. So I'm just gonna skip that. So they say. So I asked them, "Are you vegan? Why are you paying for non-vegan food if you are vegan?" And then Kiran responds. She says, or he says, I don't know. Being vegan, it doesn't mean someone won't feed vegan, non-vegan food. So they mistyped, and I got a little confused. But they mean that being vegan doesn't mean that you will not feed non-vegan food. Well, no, that's exactly what it means. That's exactly what it means. You don't purchase animal products. You don't contribute. Sorry, pardon my pronunciation. You don't contribute to economically or otherwise to the animal agriculture industry, because that's literally what it means. Like, why does it matter if I am purchasing it, or if I'm purchasing meat and consuming it myself, or if I buy it and give it to someone else? It doesn't make any difference to the animals that are killed for the meat. They're going to be killed anyway, right? So, yeah. So I say, well, I mean, I make a little joke about how I'm anti-slavery. I won't buy slaves myself, but I will buy slaves for people who don't have slaves, because that's exactly what this sounds like. I'm a vegan. I will not purchase animals to eat for myself, but I will purchase and give it to dogs and cats or whatever, right? And then this person says, see, it's easy to say when they don't have pets. The reason I joined the group is to find out vegan options only, as the street dogs and home cats are not eating what you feed. Do you have pets? They ask me angrily. Why are you assuming I don't? I mean, firstly, it is completely irrelevant whether I have pets or not. And for the record, I do have a cat back in Mumbai. Well, I don't have a cat with me right now, but I do have a cat in Mumbai. And that cat is being fed Benevo and Amy, vegan cat food. So just for the record. But it's completely irrelevant whether I have pets or not, because the point is that you're not obligated to feed street dogs. Okay? That's the idea that a lot of these vegans fail to grasp. I have no idea why this is such a hard concept for these people to digest, but they just don't get it, and you will see what I mean by that. Okay. So this person, Sundar, says, I tried giving vegan food. I'm just gonna check the chat a little bit, just see if everything is fine. My dogs are good. Yogurt is curd. Non-vegan. Yes, yogurt is curd, and that is non-vegan. Yes. My dogs eat rotis and rice, and they're happy. Yeah, some dogs are happy with that. Being vegan doesn't mean you'll actually be vegan. Okay, fine. So that's the status of the chat. Let's go back to the to the screenshots. All right. So Sundar says, I tried giving vegan food to my street dogs. I feed, and they didn't eat a bite. Oh, wait, is this the same? Oh, sorry, this is the same. Okay, the next set of screenshots. So, another person on the group, and I respect this person for whatever they do. They say that. So this person is Malini Iyer. She says, I feed 50 plus street dogs and 10 plus street cats. I also have 5 dogs and 4 cats at home. I haven't paid for the exploitation and suffering of sentient animals to satisfy the taste needs of any of them. And I completely appreciate whatever this person is doing. More power to them. And this is the kind of clarity that you should have in terms of feeding other animals. Whether you're feeding your pets or whether you're feeding animals on the street, you cannot, and I mean cannot in a deontic sense, you cannot or you should not exploit or pay for the rights violations of sentient animals, sentient beings. That's completely contrary to veganism. I hope people understand it, and it will take some time to sink in as we go through this chat, so bear with me. So Kiran then responds, I do understand where it's coming from, but I have tried everything I could. Okay? And then the response from Malini is that feed your street dog smart hair. She gives like a recommendation of some particular commercial pet food brand. And Kiran then responds to me saying, so that only I am asking, tell me what you feed so I can try for myself. So she wants me to tell her what I feed my cat or whatever, and then she'll follow it. Again, don't see the relevance because I'm not talking about that. So I just say, I only have experience with Benevo and Amy, and my cat likes both. You can try what others are suggesting, but I find your vegan is not equal to no non-vegan food comment intriguing, is what I said. Because it makes me wonder if you actually care about the ethics of purchasing animal products. Because there might be, it may be something like they have this idea that, oh, I personally should not put animal products into my mouth or wear leather on my body. But if I purchase it and give it to dogs, then it's a-okay, right? That's kind of the idea I'm getting from the kinds of stuff that this person is saying. I'm just going to take a sip of water. Excuse me. Great. Yeah. And then Kiran had responded to me saying that I can't keep them without food. And then I said, well, your pets? Probably not. I mean, I get the idea that if you have purchased a pet or you have adopted a pet, then you kind of have some kind of obligation towards the pet. And, you know, you have some responsibility to feed them or something like that. Again, I'm not saying that in that case it is justified. I would not say that. But I understand why people will feel a sense of obligation towards their pets. I get that. But for street dogs, there's absolutely no obligation to feed street dogs. And let me just briefly go back to my Obsidian so that I can sort of use this opportunity to lay out what I mean by obligations and virtuous actions. Okay, let's go back to Obsidian for a second. Okay, so the way I look at obligations is that an obligation has to be an action, and the action it could be like good or neutral. But, and like, I'm just gonna delete this part because it's not the most important thing. But the idea is that it is an action that, if not performed, or if not performed, then it is a bad it's a bad thing. So if not if not I would say performed, then it is bad. Okay, and bad, immoral, you can say bad or immoral or whatever. And I'll just give some kind of like, I'll just like illustrate that with veganism, right? Because so the first thing is an obligation, and the other thing is an action that is virtuous. A virtuous action is an action, obviously, and it is good, may or may not be obligatory. May not be obligatory. Just gonna keep glancing at the chat and okay. Great. So now, like, there are two cases. One is like an obligation. So in my view, we have an obligation to not kill or contribute to the killing or maiming or other kinds of rights violations of sentient beings. And that is an obligation. And what that means is that if you contribute to those things, or if you cause those things, then you're doing something bad. On the other hand, you have a virtuous action, which is like feeding, like dogs, or feeding orphan children, or helping grandma cross the road. These are virtuous actions in the sense that they may be good, but they may or may not be obligatory. Now, whether they are obligatory or not would depend on many things. I'm not going to get into the detailed discussion about that over here, but the idea is just basically feeding animals is a good thing because you are preventing them from starving and stuff like that. However, it has to be done without breaking or without ignoring your obligations. If you keep to your obligations while performing something virtuous, then it is good. However, if you are violating someone's rights, if you're violating an obligation in order to perform a virtuous action, then it may be bad. Just generally, it could be bad because there's obviously going to be some virtuous actions which produce so much utility that it outweighs the rights violations that are caused by this. And just take the lab meat example. Lab meat initially, it had to, like, the company had to procure some fetal bovine serum in order to produce to develop the growth medium. So that did contribute to some rights violations, right? However, they're going to be preventing so many rights violations as a consequence of developing this technology, that, and obviously preventing so much suffering, that is going to far outweigh the deontic weight associated with violating an obligation. So if you so you can do some kind of like calculus, right? So on one side you have like the negatives and the positives. So you could be like, in the lab meat case, you have some deontic weight associated with purchasing FBS, right? But on the positives, you're probably saving millions of chicken. Well, chicken is already plural. Or fish, etc. etc. So that's kind of how we make decisions in this case. So there was some in the initial stages. I should mention that. Okay. So there was some FBS purchased in the initial stages. However, over time, they're going to be saving millions of chicken or fish, and that far outweighs. I don't even think this is contributed. Like the amount of FBS that they might have purchased may not even be enough to like kill like an entire cow or something like that. Again, don't quote me on this. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. But the idea is the amount of FBS that they have purchased is not going to be so much that it is the badness associated with purchasing FBS is not outweighed by the millions of chicken or fish that are not abused for the pet food, right? So that is one action. However, compare that to chickens. Compare that to pets, right? So this is the lab meat case. Let me just, and this is pet food, non-vegan. Okay, so this is the lab meat case, and this is the pet food case, and the positives and negatives are gonna be charted again. What are the negatives? Okay, let's start with the positives. What are the positives? This person said 26 animals or something like that. 26 dogs or something, for example, get food. That is the positive. What's the negative? You're increasing the demand for chicken, eggs, and dairy, right? So the way demand and supply works is, it like there's no one-to-one correspondence to a purchase and chicken being killed, right? And you might have like watched some of my debates about this, but the idea is that if you purchase animal, let's say you purchase some chicken product, like let's say chicken legs or something like that, chicken wings or something like that, that's not going to translate to a chicken being killed. It's not like a one-to-one correspondence. What actually happens is you make purchases, and so are other people. So just like you going and purchasing some chicken wings, there are other people who are also looking for chicken wings. They're also looking for chicken breasts or chicken thighs or whatever, right? And they're going to come to the market. And I mean market as in like an entity. I don't mean like a supermarket exactly. But you could consider that. Like just they're going to enter the market, and they're going to place orders for these products. And what's going to happen is the company that is selling these things has some kind of buffer. And what happens is there is a threshold called the demand threshold. And if a certain number of orders are placed, then an order is placed for the next shipment of chickens. That's roughly the idea. There's obviously a lot more intricate detail, but the idea is there's a demand threshold, which means a certain number of purchases have to be initiated for the next shipment to be ordered. Now, what we are doing as consumers is being one among the people who are in that, in that sequence for triggering the threshold. And there are some empirical calculations about this, and the idea is that there is a high chance of, being on the threshold such that your purchase triggers the next shipment of chickens to be killed. And the idea is that you have a high likelihood, even if you are even if your consumption of animal products is like 25% of the average, even then you have a significantly high chance, like well above like 60% or 70%. I don't remember the exact number, but well above 50% and 60%, that you will be the person to trigger the demand threshold and then cause the death of, like, for example, 900 chickens or something like that. So, and the idea is, as you make these purchases, your probability of being on the threshold goes up, such that you will end up triggering that threshold over your lifetime at least once. So, if those were humans instead of chickens, presumably we would not take the risk of 90%. We would not take like a 90% risk of doing something that causes 900 or so humans to be killed. Right? So that's kind of the idea with how the demand and supply thing works. And the idea is you are purchasing animal products, and that's how you're increasing the demand for chicken, eggs, and dairy. And I'm using these terms because this person said that they are purchasing, or they're paying someone to purchase eggs and milk. So who lays the eggs? It's a chicken. And you're increasing demand for the chickens, for the eggs, and for dairy, right? And the positive for that is that 26 dogs get food. Now, if this person is making these purchases, and I think if they're making these purchases, then they are well above the average consumer, because they are going to be purchasing a lot of food, right? For feeding like 26 dogs. Their consumption is way higher than the average, so their probability of triggering this threshold is even higher than the average person. So they're probably contributing to the deaths of thousands of chickens. So thousands, maybe millions of chickens. By the way, in the egg industry, we know that male chicks are discarded. So though I'm not even counting those. So if you count those, that's going to be even worse. So the male chicks are just ground up alive or just discarded. So thousands of male chicks, maybe thousands of chicken, maybe hundreds of cows get abused, get their rights violated, so that 26 dogs can get food. And there's more. It gets worse. And let me just switch back to my Discord so that I can tell you why it gets worse and how it gets worse. Okay. Anyway, coming back. Yes, I have talked about the obligation thing. And then Kiran responds back to me. She said, or he said, I don't know, that they have tried both. Are they're basically the dogs aren't eating. I don't know what they're saying exactly, but the dogs aren't eating the food, and that's the reason they are in the group, because they want to get advice. So Malini then suggests, give them a couple days to get hungry enough to eat. They will never starve themselves to death when food is available. So, and I said, well, cool, I understand. You're getting the suggestions that you could try, but this is the time to think about the ethics, right? And then Kiran responds. They say, that's not in case of street dogs, because some lady comes and gives them chicken, so they might never eat. What? Oh, hold on. So some lady comes and gives them chicken, which is why these dogs are not going to eat the chicken, so not going to eat the vegan food that Kiran is going to give them, probably because they're already full. Like, they don't need this vegan food. They're satiated, right? I'm going to look at the chat once more. Stop saying pet for person. God damn it. Yeah, this person is spamming way too much. And they are clearly not understanding what I'm saying. Whatever. Yeah. I don't care about platitudes like, oh, don't say pets, don't say, like, like, don't say food or whatever. Look, you get what I mean. I'm not the one paying for animal abuse, okay? It doesn't matter what you call them. Pet is not a bad word. There's nothing negative associated with the term pet. The word pet just means someone who you're fond of. There are connotations about animals being purchased and kept at home, and that's what a pet is. I don't care. That's not how I'm using the term. Okay? Stop giving me bullshit about words. I don't care to use the term companion animal or whatever else. I don't care about using these terms. I'm gonna say pets. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with the term pets. I'm going to say pets. And I don't care if you're calling it ableist or whatever. Vegan Anthem is a known troublemaker in vegan streams. Okay, I'm just going to mute this person. Is there... oh, yeah. There's a hide user on the channel. Awesome. Fuck off. I don't give a shit about you. Okay. Let me know if their messages are gone so that I can, like, do something else if necessary. Yeah, because this person is just, like, spamming my fucking chat, and there's, like, other people who want to say stuff, but this person is just spamming the chat, and I can't read what the other people have to say. Okay, great. They are gone. Great. All right. Let's go back to the... how long has it been? It's been 1 hour, I think. Yeah, 1 hour, 15 minutes. Okay, I'll try to be a little faster. All right. Okay, so it's ridiculous. There's some person who is feeding the dogs, and Kiran here wants to feed the dogs that are fed. So I say, well, okay, don't feed them. If they don't want to eat the vegan food, don't feed them. You don't have to. There's no obligation. And then this person is like, well, that I can't do. Well, yes, you can. Of course you can. There's nobody forcing you to feed dogs that are likely already fed. um, and then Malini tells this person, that's not in your control. If they aren't eating your vegan food, stop feeding them. They aren't going hungry anyway. Which is right. Apparently some woman comes and feeds them chicken. Obviously they're not hungry. Right? So, and Kiran just refuses. Kiran says, I won't, buddy. I won't stop feeding them, even if they don't want to eat. And the next set. Okay. And then Kiran is like, give me time to find options. Okay, whatever. And what Kiran says is that this woman who comes and feeds them chicken, she feeds them very limited quantities of chicken. And then Malini rightfully asks, so you're saying they're being fed by others. Why are you feeding them then? And what Kiran is saying is that they don't, feed them enough. So Kiran has to give them something. There are many dogs, so this woman feeds only a portion, and that portion is like meat or eggs. In which case, and then Malini says, in which case, if they are hungry, they will eat the vegan dog food. If they aren't hungry, leave them alone. Very simple. There's nothing difficult about understanding this concept that if a dog is, not eating your food, they're probably not hungry enough, right? They probably have had enough of the food. And also, there's this kind of like lack of, I joked on the Discord server that there's like a like some of these people will probably fail like a theory of mind test, like the Sally Ann test. Does everyone in the chat know what the Sally Ann test is? Otherwise, I'll just like quickly explain what the Sally Ann test is. Otherwise, I'll just like move past it. But it's a test for theory of mind. I mean, maybe I can just... There's some delay in me talking and people receiving whatever I'm saying and then responding to the comments. Okay. There's someone who does not know the Sally Ann test. Okay. Okay. The Sally Ann test is kind of like a theory of mind test. The idea is if you take children who are younger than the age of 6, for example. I don't know if it's like 6 or 4 or something like that. Like really young children, like really, like 2-year-old or something like that. If you tell them the story, and the story is there's a girl called Sally. She has a cookie. She comes and she puts the cookie, she comes into a room and the room has a basket and she puts a cookie in the basket. Okay, and then Sally leaves the room. Okay, maybe I should draw this so that it'll be easier to understand, and I'll just make it quick. Okay, Sally Ann test. Great. So there's a room. Okay, there's a door, and there's a table on the door in the room, for example. And let's say there is a closet and there's a basket. Now, Sally comes in and places a cookie in the basket. And then Sally exits the room. Now, Anne is another girl. She comes into the room. She takes the cookie. She places it into the closet. She takes it outside the basket and she puts it in the closet. And then, such that now the cookie is inside the closet. By the way, these are not transparent. These are opaque baskets and closets, so they can't see. And then Anne leaves the room. Okay? Now, Sally comes back into the room. Now, the question is, where will Sally look for the cookie? Now, this is the test. The child has to answer, where will Sally look for the cookie? Now, children that do not, that are too young and have not developed a theory of mind, they will say Sally will go to the closet and she will open the closet and look for the cookie inside the closet. However, when you ask older kids who have developed a theory of mind, they would say that Sally will obviously open the basket and look for the cookie inside the basket. And the idea is that younger children have failed to distinguish the minds of Sally and Anne. So they kind of have this idea that Anne, whatever Anne did, is information available to Sally. And that's why Sally will not bother looking at the looking inside the basket. She will simply go and look inside the closet, because like they don't know that Sally does not have the memories that Anne has. Okay, so that's the Sally-Anne test, and this is kind of like a detour. It's not super relevant because I just made it like as a half joke. And the idea is that I said that they don't have a theory of mind because they look at these dogs and they think that, oh, like, obviously this dog is like hungry, even though the dog is simply has literally just eaten whatever that chicken lady had to offer them. So yeah, so I again, it's not a really like well thought out joke or anything like that. It's just a but I took the opportunity to explain what the Sally-Anne test is. Okay. Anyway, great. So let's go back to the screenshots. Anyway, so I said, I made another joke over here. I said that the ocean has too little water in it, so I must go and pour a bucket in it. Like, the dogs are already fed. Like, you don't have to go and feed the dogs anymore. Like, they're not hungry. They don't want to eat whatever you have to offer them. And like, if you give them chicken and they eat chicken, it's probably because they are attracted to the taste of the chicken, and that's why they're consuming it, as opposed to eating it because they're hungry. So it's not even clear that these dogs that they're trying to feed are hungry to begin with, or starving to begin with, as these people would like to claim. So I say, then I gave her kind of like a list of pointers similar to what I'm saying over here. You're not obligated to take care of street dogs. It's good if you do, but it's not bad if you don't. You are obligated to not abuse chickens and cows. It makes no difference to the chickens and cows if you abuse them for yourself or for street dogs. It doesn't make them suffer less somehow. And the action is not better just because it's selfless. But people have this idea that, I'm not the one eating it. It's the chicken. Is the dog eating it? So, the action is not bad because, like, I'm not being selfish. Nobody cares if the act was selfish or not. We just care if the action produced rights violations. Okay, and then I say, if no vegan option works, there's always the option of feeding them the new lab meat. The price of lab meat should not bother you because you don't have to feed all the dogs. You just have to feed the dogs that you can afford to feed without abusing other animals. And this is another point of brain rot that these feeders have. And I'm going to switch to my Obsidian again and do some doodling. Hold on. So, let's say, so these people, let's say they have 15,000 rupees, which is roughly, $150. Okay. Let's say they have $150 a month that they can spare. Now, they choose to spend $150 to purchase animal products and feed 26 dogs. But I'm pretty sure that if they look around a little more, they will find more than 26 dogs. They will probably find 50 dogs. If they just expanded. So if this is the area that they are serving in, if they just expand their area slightly. What the fuck is this? Huh? I don't know. I think it just like forms a shape if I connect these two things. Anyway, so if this is the area that they are feeding animals in right now, and there are 26 dogs over here, and they slightly expand their horizons, they're probably gonna find 50 dogs. But they're not gonna increase their budget. Their budget is just $150. So they're not increasing their horizons. So obviously they're not gonna be feeding all the animals that they can, that they can. They're only gonna feed the animals that they can feed within this budget of $150. Now what I have to say is, okay, as let's grant that the vegan dog food options are gonna be, okay, let's just grant that these vegan dog food options are gonna be more expensive than the non-vegan dog food options. So what you can do is, instead of feeding 26 dogs, you can just make your purview smaller and maybe feed like, I don't know, 10 dogs or 15 dogs. I don't know, what, just like a random, like a number, right? So if your budget is not going to increase, if you only have $150, you can use that $150 budget to purchase the vegan options and feed them to a lesser number of dogs. Why? In that way, you're doing something that is supererogatory, and you're also not abusing or exploiting or causing the rights to violations of sentient beings. All you have to do is shorten your horizon, feed fewer number of dogs, so you're still doing something good. But this time you're keeping your obligations, so you're doing something that is better than whatever you were doing before, even though you're feeding less dogs than you were, right? The other option is you can just double your budget, just spend $300 instead of what the fuck is happening with this? I don't know why this is. Maybe some settings. I don't know. But it's forming like a shape. I don't want that. Just fuck. Anyway, $300. This is double your budget, $300, and you can feed the same number of dogs as you were feeding before. So it's totally like up to you what you want to do. I don't care what you do as long as you don't contribute to the rights violations of sentient beings. Okay, let's go back to the Discord so I can continue the rest of the conversation. All right. Then Kiran responds, first of all, I don't feed all the dogs, but to feed one dog also, that price matters. I can't give 1,500 to 2,000 rupees for 1 kilogram. I'm here to find out. Okay, listen. If you can't afford to feed dogs, don't feed dogs. If you can't afford it, don't do it. Don't abuse animals just for doing that, just because it fits your budget. That's just like insane. And then Kiran responds to Malini saying, should I just leave them to die? Well, you don't have to leave them to die. They're clearly not hungry. They want to eat whatever you have to offer them. Okay, after a long time, Sundar then responds to me, says, I'm vegan, yes. And I say, oh, you're okay with paying for eggs and milk? And then Sundar says, I have no alternative. They don't eat. I can't force animals to eat. I can't force a lion to eat grass, and similarly, a wolf decent, I don't know what that means, but whatever. Dogs. Oh, wolf descent dogs to eat vegan food. Okay. Wow. Descent. I can try, but if they don't eat, what do you want to do? Starve them? Again, this is like a some kind of like delusion that people have that if they don't feed the animal, then the animal is just gonna starve to death. No, the animal is not gonna starve to death. The chicken lady is feeding the animals. Also, in India, a lot of meat shops. There are a lot of like restaurants, meat shops, garbage like trash bins, like garbage cans and stuff like that on the road. And these stray animals will help themselves. They will go and stand outside the meat shop, and those butchers would just throw pieces of meat out to them sometimes, like pieces of waste or whatever. And then these dogs or cats would eat that. They will go dumpster diving, like a lot of vegans want to do. But yeah, like they would go dumpster diving, and they would pick up whatever food they can find from the dumpsters. And there are also restaurants. Again, like the restaurants have like their own dumpsters behind at the back, so these dogs know where people from the restaurants dump their waste, and they'll go and help them. They'll help themselves. These animals are not starving. There's an abundance of food in India, unless it's some fucking remote, rural kind of area where there's just like a desert or something like that. None of these animals are starving. They are well fed, and whatever you feed them is an added luxury to them, which is why they turn you down when you offer vegan food. Arguably because the vegan food, like the plant-based dog food, is not going to be as palatable as like meat and stuff like that for the dogs. Okay. So yeah, so this is like a strange kind of delusion that people have that these animals are starving. And then he says, I have no alternative. And then I say, well, you don't have to feed them. That's an alternative. And then Kiran says, so I had told Kiran that the lab meat costs 1,000 rupees for a kilogram, roughly. And then she asks, like, which one? I don't know why I keep assuming their gender. So I suggest Ethia lab meat. Kiran is a gender neutral like name. Like there are girls named Kiran, there are guys named Kiran. So I don't know which one this is. Um, so uh, I reply to Sundar again that I'm assuming you're talking about street dogs because that's where'd that go? Sorry. Yes. And then he says yes. Um, and then there's a conversation that happens between Kiran and Sundar, where Kiran responds to Sundar and saying, "They are trying to tell that only, I guess, starve them." And Sundar says, "Wow, dude, they're." I don't know why I did that. They're asking you to tell me that they want to be starved. Um, and then Kiran responds, read the messages. They gave options, and they are saying if they don't, if they won't, if they won't eat it, leave. There's no. The idea again, this is some like Indian English writing stuff, but the idea is that if they don't eat the food that you offer them, just leave them alone, and there's no point in exploiting others. That our point is that we should not exploit others. I do get their point, but I can't see animals starve too. So let's try. Well, they are not starving. Again, this is just some like delusion that people have that these animals are starving. Give okay, another the next set of images, I suppose. Yeah, so I say, well, there are plenty of animals in the world that are starving. Presumably, you aren't feeding every single one of them. And the idea I wanted to convey that you don't have to feed all the animals. Just feed the animals that your budget allows without abusing other animals, right? So, Kiran has some fantastic advice for me. Kiran has the following advice. Please get out of this mindset. I don't know which mindset is being referred to, but so I'm having trouble taking this advice. And then Sundar says, I'm doing what I can near my vicinity. Yes, you can shorten your scope, and then you have the same budget, so you can you can feed less animals without abusing other animals with the same amount of money, right? You can obviously do that, but you won't because you're a piece of shit. Anyway, I didn't say that, but just commentary. And then Kiran says, "We will feed the animals we have with us. That much is obvious." And then Sundar says, "If you can't feed, that doesn't mean an animal has to starve. It's worse than exploitation. It's like telling you to stop eating and surviving because there's no vegan food." Okay. This message triggered me. It triggered my correction impulse. And I do kind of get a little sidetracked, but I will come back to it. But okay, so, and basically, this person says that starvation is worse than exploitation. Remember this. This person says it's worse than exploitation. Okay? Because this comes up later. Remember that this person said it's worse than exploitation. So I ask, wait, you think chickens being ground up alive, cows being raped, calves being slaughtered is better than some dogs not getting a meal? And then he bounces the question back like, so you want to say dogs starve? And I just push the question again. I say, no, answer my question. Like die in front of your eyes or other animals. If you want to stop slaughtering, you can stop it. You can stop cow giving birth or animal giving birth. I don't know what he is rambling about. But I just reiterate the question. I asked, hundreds of chickens being slaughtered, thousands of male chicks being ground up, many cows being raped, many calves taken away and sold for slaughter. Is this better than a dog starving? Yes or no? And Sundar says, both are not good. Well, that's not what I asked. So I ask him to read the question again. And then he says, any form of exploitation or starvation is not good. They have a right to live. I said, well, read the question. Because what did I ask? I asked if all of these things, hundreds of chickens being slaughtered, thousands of them being ground up, many cows being raped and abused, is that better than a dog starving? Yes or no? It's a simple yes or no question. You can say yes, it's better. No, it's not better. Okay? And then Sundar, like a normie, has the not black and white though response. He says, this is not a yes or no answer. This is not a yes or no answer. Of course it is. Like I spell out the options. Is the former better than the latter? Right? The answer can be yes, it's better, or no, it's not better. Of course it's a yes or no answer. And then he's like, he launches into some kind of platitude about, is my right eye better than the left? I don't have an answer. Well, that's not what I'm asking you. I didn't ask you to compare your eyes. I asked you to compare you to compare between many animals being abused and some dogs not getting a meal. Because again, I'm not even granting that they're starving. Because it's not even established that they're starving. They're just refusing a meal, right? But these people are just like assuming they're starving. But fine, even if we assume like some dogs are gonna, like, let's say a dog is gonna starve to death, even that's not gonna justify abusing thousands of animals. So he says, you mean to say starvation is better than exploitation? These normies, I don't get it. Why do they not understand that asking a question doesn't necessarily imply a proposition? I'm not being rhetorical when I ask that question. I was genuinely asking what they think, and I asked multiple times whether it's a yes or no. Because you can ask a rhetorical question where you state a proposition, where you assert a proposition in the form of asking a question, and that is often like it's clear from context. But in this case it's not, because I'm asking them to answer the question, right? And then people have this kind of weird thing about, oh, why are you arguing? Let's find a solution together. Whatever, normies. I'm gonna take a sip of water again. Excuse me for a second. All right. So, then I say, well, it's not. And then Sundar has this brilliant response. I'm just gonna check the live chat a little bit. Hello, Mukul. Damn. Okay. Then I say, well, Sundar has this like genius response. He says, why don't you starve? As food we eat isn't completely vegan, as the soul contain. He probably means soil. As the soil contains residues of anti-vegan food. And I don't know what that means. Like, how do you know it's completely vegan? Those a place, whatever. Those a plant, okay. Oh, those a plant, okay. So I asked this person, define completely vegan. Again, I got a little sidetracked because this really triggered my correction impulse, but I do come back. And then I say, you're dodging the question, right? And then he says, Completely vegan means no residue of decayed bodies, bones of animals, no mixed manure of animals. And then I bring the topic. I bring the discussion back to the topic because again, we can get into the whole like residue of decayed bodies. This is a separate discussion. Um, like it's not relevant to whatever we're talking about. So I just bring it back. I say I need you to answer my question first. Sorry, one sec. And then he says, I can't answer a question, which is asking me to choose between starvation and exploitation. Okay. For me, both are wrong. If you remember, just a few screenshots before, he was saying that starvation is worse than exploitation. And now when I just like make the stakes clear, when I just ask this person if thousands of chickens being abused, many cows being abused for their milk, basically so many animals being abused, if that is better than some dogs not getting a meal. And then at that point, when I had not made it explicit, he said starvation is worse than exploitation. And now when I make it explicit, when I make it clear what the stakes are, he says, for me, both are wrong. You're asking me to choose between them. It's hilarious. Like, you're choosing the exploitation when you pay for eggs. This guy pays a feeder to go and purchase eggs and milk, and yogurt or whatever, and feed it to dogs. You literally pay for the exploitation. So clearly there's something wrong, because if your answer is that no, exploitation is not better than starvation, which is what he seems to be implying with like, for me both are wrong and you're asking me to choose between them or something, you are choosing between them. You're saying that both are wrong, but clearly you're picking the exploitation by paying for it. And that makes you a hypocrite. So this is one of the few times where people who identify as vegans are actually hypocrites. Because for the most part, when carnists accuse vegans of hypocrisy, is usually is a nothing burger. Like when you actually look into the vegans' values, so hypocrisy is going to be like a discordance in a person's stated values and their actions. So if there's a disconnect between what they say and what they do, that's usually what hypocrisy is, right? So if you say exploitation and starvation are equally bad, but you choose to pay for exploitation, clearly you think a world where exploitation is happening as opposed to starvation, that the world where exploitation is happening is better than the world where starvation is happening. Unless of course, you're lying about what you're saying, or you're a fucking NPC. You're a non-playable character who has like it's even doubtful that you're sentient, and you're just like a fucking robot who has no idea what they're saying, and they're just like hallucinating some response like AI, and just like typing like mindlessly, and like you're an NPC. Those are the only two options where you're not a hypocrite. Where if you're just like lying, or if you're just like an NPC and you're just like, you just have no like you're not even thinking about your like your values. Like you're saying that they're equal, but you're not even like serious about it. You're not even like asserting that attitude. You don't even have that kind of attitude in your mind because you're a fucking NPC. And so those are the only cases where it can be like you can have these kinds of views and not be a fucking hypocrite, right? Uh, okay. Let me read the chat. I like the insult CTE victim. What is CTE? Oh, chronic traumatic encephalopathy? Is that what you mean? Anyway, so I'm just reading through the chat a little bit. Right, yeah, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Yeah, like this. I don't know how these people like function in like day-to-day life. Like they seem like such a fucking NPC. Like they have like no fucking idea what they're talking about. Like how do you say, like few messages ago you say that you don't that starvation is worse than exploitation, and when the things are actually made clear, then you're like, oh, both are wrong. Fucking retards. And then Sundar has a fantastic, genius, chronic traumatic encephalopathy inspired response to my allegation that that he's a hypocrite. So he says, there's a rule for survival of the fittest. If I'm exploiting every time for food, for me, then I agree. So yeah, this is some bullshit about how him personally not paying is bad. Him paying is bad, but if he does it for dogs, then it's all right. Now I say, well, listen, buddy. The cows and chickens don't care. It does not matter to them whether you're exploiting them for yourself or for street dogs. It doesn't matter to them. It doesn't magically like stop hurting the chicks when they go into the fucking grinder. Alright? Don't give me any of that bullshit about how it's like okay for me to purchase this for dogs, but not okay for purchasing and not okay to purchase and eat it myself. Like, no, the chickens don't give a shit. And so now Sundar is like, well, then create a food source for them. They're not herbivores. Why do they exist on the road? Crows eat rats and grains and meat. Whatever. But again, none of this is relevant to the discussion. Because we're not talking about, like creating food sources for stray dogs. We're not talking about the stray dog problem in general. All we're saying is, you can do whatever the fuck you want with stray dogs. As long as, whatever the fuck you want, as in terms of feeding them. Yep, I had to qualify that. Like, I'm talking in terms of feeding them. You can feed them whatever the fuck you want, as long as you don't pay for animal products, which contributes to rights violations. Okay? And then Nitin comes in. So Nitin, he's an okay dude, but he has some kind of like Gandhian fucking idea about how there's just no context in which you can like call people names or something. And he's just like retarded like that. He has like zero values against sophistry. So he runs many groups and he has like zero sophistry prevention mechanics in place. Like no rule against sophistry. People can come in, make fuck all claims, give fuck all evidence, and that's all fine. But if you call some of these people retards, then it's a huge problem. If you react with a clown emoji to some of these retards, then that's a huge problem. But making false claims and all that, not a problem. You can stay on the group and keep doing that, right? Anyway, but this guy comes in and then he starts telling this person that we do not support animal abuse. Eggs and milk come from animal abuse. Blah blah blah. And then he's Sundar again, genius, is like, having animals or dogs without food system for them is abuse too. You're forcing them to live. Both are wrong. And then Nitin says that you can feed them nutritionally adequate plant-based food. You are obligated to not harm others. Helping others is not an obligation. This is something that Nitin has picked up from some of the members of the philosophical community. Good on him. And Sundar says, I'm trying. If they don't eat, whatever. Hold on. What do? Then they go to butcher shops. People throw non-veg waste. Milk products. You think they eat food which is vegan? I don't. People throw it. So he's providing like rebuttals to himself. He's saying that dogs go to butcher shops and they pick up they dumpster dive. Like, why do you need to feed them? Like, they're clearly abundant. They have an abundant source of nutrition, clearly, or at least to take care of their, at least they're not starving. Yeah, so, and then he's like, they might kill animals, other animals, like, pigeons or whatever, if feeders don't feed. Let me tell you a little bit. If you've seen enough street dogs, I don't think they give a shit about pigeons, even if they're, like, not hungry. Sometimes these dogs would just, like, hunt pigeons and stuff for the fuck of it. It's not necessary that they are hungry when they do that. Like, many of them would just do it for the game. So it's not clear that these feeders are somehow preventing dogs from hunting. If anything, these dogs are probably getting the bulk of their food from dumpsters or from butcher shops or whatever, as this person himself is saying, right? And then Nathan asks him what's the purpose of joining the group, and then he says he wants to, like, ask for vegan food or something like that. And then I say, if they're going to meat shops, then they're not starving, right? And then, like, again, it comes back to kind of like what he does, which is give feeders money, and then I make a joke about how he says starvation and exploitation are both bad, and then proceeds to fund exploitation. And then he says, "Oh, we can feed them like leftover milk of a cow." And then, well, I said, "Well, just give it to me. I'm starving too right now. I refuse to eat anything else." I made a little joke about that. And then, yeah, he says a bunch of bullshit. Doesn't really matter what he says. And then he says, like, Nitin tells him to, like, form his sentences clearly instead of, like, spamming the group with, like, a bunch of messages. And so this guy, clearly, if you read these messages, isn't, if you feel A2 milk after they aren't used, it's not. Eggs definitely are if you have lab produced eggs. Who the fuck is producing eggs in the lab? Hit me up, guys. Like, there's lab eggs in India? I don't think this guy's talking about lab eggs. I think he's just talking about, like, table eggs. But he clearly does not know that even table eggs are produced by chickens, not by labs. And then he says, "Today's world, just becoming a vegan doesn't mean you aren't. Exploitation is stopped." Um, some bullshit. uh, and then yeah, it's just clear that this person does not has like no basic understanding, even like a normie level understanding of veganism. So he kind of gets kicked out of the group, and that's the happy ending. That this guy got kicked out of the group, and he was added to another group probably, but I have been kicked out of that other group because I called someone like a retard, or I wrecked someone, and that person, like I clown, like I gave them like a clown emoji or something like that. And Nitin has no tolerance for clown emojis, but he has all the tolerance and all the patience in the world for sophistry, which is why he retains everyone who like he doesn't care about banning sophists, but he kicked me out of the group. I don't care about being in that group anyway. So, but he was apparently added to that group now. So that's the happy ending, and that's kind of what I wanted to rant about. However, there's one more thing. I don't know if I should like continue over here or just yeah yeah, I'll just say that, oh, sorry, my fucking Discord is now open. Let me just go back to my Obsidian. Okay, what I'm saying is, look, there are people who are activists, right? Now so activism is like, evidence seems to indicate, let me just go over the chat. Okay, yeah. Evidence seems to indicate that having a good rapport with people you disagree with will help them change their minds more. What are your thoughts on this? Yeah, I generally agree with that. And I'm not someone who starts like name calling right off the bat. It takes a combination of things. It requires someone to be either clearly wrong or like too like, you know yeah, like they may be like wrong or unjustified in believing something, and they have to be like kind of like an asshole, like in the sense that they lack intellectual humility, and they refuse to be like corrected when someone better comes up and can like they yeah, like let's say you're trying to like be nice to them and say that, well, you know what, like this view is false, and here's the argument for that. Or you say, well, I don't know why you think that, do you have like evidence to support your view? Then they like there's a kind of response which just comes off as intellectually like not humble, and that really pisses me off. And I still try my best to be nice to them, but it gets to a point where there's like, I just see no scope where this person is gonna open up, um, and there's just like I think at that point, it's also like when someone is repeating this behavior over and over again, even after getting like wrecked thoroughly multiple times. Again, it gets to a point where you're like, there's just no um there's just no point trying to be nice to this person, because they're obviously not um returning in kind. They are doubling down on their the lack of their intellectual humility and overconfidence. um so at this point you just mock them and make an example out of them for others, so that you create like a negative environment for these kinds of behaviors, so that the next time when people see these kinds of like negative stimulus for sophistry, they will be hesitant to perform it themselves. That's, again, I don't have any evidence to back this up or something like that, but I have like a value that we should create like an environment that is hostile to sophistry. And beyond the point of niceness, I think that's what we need to do. So at some point, I just don't care about convincing that person. All I care about at that moment, my goal at that point, is to mock them and create a negative environment for these kinds of behaviors, like sophistry. I mean, um, one is happenstance, twice is coincidence, third is pattern. After the pattern of intellectual dishonesty, the mocking emerges. Well, it doesn't happen like the third time. Like it really depends. Like it's yeah, it really depends on the case. I don't have like a hard rule that this is like the third time. It really depends on the intensity. If I see the intensity go down the second time, then I might be inclined to be nicer. But if I see the intensity go up, then like the mocking would just start at the second time rather than the first time. If the intensity is super high, just at the very first instance, then just the mocking would just be instant. Yeah, so I don't have like a strict rule that I give everyone like 3 chances. It really depends on the context, but usually like I try to be nice. Okay, I try to be nice, and if that doesn't work, yeah, like we just want to create like a negative environment for these kinds of behaviors, and that's kind of like a value that I have. So yeah, only like some even like higher forms of like evidence would convince me. Like maybe if we have some kind of like um some evidence that you have to like hold on to like a person for 10 times of their sophistry, and only then they will you know they will they will change their mind. If we have something like that, like on average it takes like 10 times or something. I don't know, I haven't looked into literature about this, but if that's the case, then we can talk about it. But anyways, I was gonna talk about something else, but I think it's getting a little late, so I guess I'll do another stream. This gives me a good topic, which is like the disconnect between the activist side of the vegan movement and the debate bro or the philosophical side of the vegan movement. So there's a disconnect between these two groups, which is what I wanted to talk about right now, but it's getting too late. So I'm gonna end the stream over here, and we're gonna meet again, hopefully next week or on Sunday, and we can discuss this topic, this disconnect, because I have a lot to say about this, and I will be I would be like restraining myself if I want to finish it in the next 10 minutes or something like that. So anyway, it was a great time streaming again, And this time it was way more active than the last time. So thanks to everyone who stayed up with me and watched the stream. Um, and thanks for everyone for interacting in the chat. And I would really appreciate everyone to like and subscribe to the channel so that you can, again, hopefully we get more eyes on this kind of content, like on the philosophical side of the movement, because there's not much going on in that realm, at least in India. So in the West, we have like Ask Yourself and Nick and others, but nothing of that sort in India. So this is something that I have started. So I expect people to help me out in this by interacting with my content and like providing engagement and likes and stuff, so that this gets sent out to other potential viewers. So thank you for that, and y'all have a good day in the West and good night in India. I'll see you next time.